the blessings that I've had since, I just talked about the biggest revelation is knowing God's love you. And I think, truthfully, the biggest blessing that God can give you, not revelation, but blessing, the biggest blessing that God can give you is to be able to discern his voice. Because like in Genesis 3:11, when Jesus asked Adam and Eve, who told you you're naked? Jesus already knew the answer. But if we don't know in that question, what it asked me is, or what the Lord talked to me about in it, was if you don't know who's talking to you, you're lost. And so the biggest blessing that I can think of that God has given me is discernment. Because I believe I know his voice. And there's discernment tools. They're talked about a lot in the books that Jenny, Jesus has had me write. Even the one about Jenny, and then the Transforming the World One Heart at a Time and the Joy of the Lord book. It all talks about discerning his voice in some form or another. And when you ask the Lord for things, expect it. Ask him for discernment, and you'll have it. A lot of times we think it's our own voice talking to us or our own thought, and it's really him. And when you realize that, and the power that comes with that, asking him questions, like I said earlier about the magistrate, trying to think, there was another one just recently. On faith. Faith is such a big thing to the Lord. It's your way. To me, faith is worshiping the Lord. Faith is more than singing in church on Sunday. And faith, it says, the gift of faith. So faith is a gift also. So when you ask the Lord for a gift, ask him for faith, because he shows you faith. Recently, somebody had given me a movie called The Book of Acts, which is the book of Acts from the Bible, and it follows the script of the Bible. The actors speak the words of the Bible in this movie. And anyway, when I turned it on the other night, the Lord said, watch this movie from the viewpoint of faith, how it builds faith. And so in the very first chapter, the apostles are asking Jesus, or they're in a room by themselves. It's after Jesus had died. And so they realized, when Jesus was here, we had 12 apostles. So there's 11 now. Judas had committed suicide at that point. And so they said, we need to elect another apostle. So all 11 of them were in agreement. We need to have 12. So they said, they spoke the words. It needs to be somebody that's been with us from the beginning. Well, there were other apostles other than the top 12 that followed Jesus around, evidently. And they picked between Matthias and Joseph. And so they stood up in the movie. And one of the apostles, it sounded like two stones. They had, I don't know exactly what casting lots mean, but they said, the apostles stood behind these two apostles, and he said, Lord, you know their heart, so you choose. And he did this thing. He rubbed his hands together, and you could hear these rocks. He opened his hands up, and evidently it was pointing to the right. And so Matthias got it. He became the 12th apostle. Well, when I saw that, I turned the movie off. And I just sat there and started thinking about that from the viewpoint of faith. And how in today's world, my comparison to casting lots would be to flip a coin. Call it heads or tails. And when you think about being one of the top 12 of Jesus' apostles, and how important that role is, to me it would be a higher place than being the president of the United States or the king of a country. Or the dictator, whatever you call him. It'd be a higher place. So it's extremely important. And the apostles, in faith, asked the Lord, you pick it. And they did this thing called casting lots, and knew immediately. And none of them none of them argued about it. That was just total faith to me. Jesus showed me faith in that movie when Paul got bitten by the snake. The snake, a poisonous snake, crawled out of the fire and bit him. Well, in the movie, they show him, he's by the fire. They said he was putting sticks on the fire in the Bible. So they show him standing over this fire. Well, the tail of the snake is in the fire. You know he ain't going to let go too easy. So he had to be pumping some venom. You know, his heart's going. Anyway, Paul shakes the snake off, and he walks over and starts eating. Well, some of the local people on that island watched him, and they thought, this is the wrath of God. He's going to drop over dead in a heartbeat. And Paul didn't. And he's sitting there. Paul actually, in the movie, kind of looks at him like, what's your problem? Why are you staring at me? It's quite funny, really. But there again, there's faith. Paul didn't cry out to the Lord, a poisonous snake bit me. Help me, Lord. Pray for me, Lord. Do something, Lord. He he had such faith that he didn't even cry out to the Lord. He walked over and started eating. Think about that. Think when the snake bites us, whatever it is, how we cry out to the Lord. Oh, Lord, why is this happening? Lord, you know, all these things, all these questions. And in reality, we're praying in fear instead of faith. Faith, true faith, allows you to get bit by a poisonous snake and walk away and go eat like nothing even happened. It's totally amazing to me when you watch that book of Acts or read it and see the faith in it. When you start reading the Bible, it's faith all the way through it. And to me, that's one of the biggest blessings. You know, discernment. Jesus said to ask for discernment, for wisdom, for understanding. Those are blessings, and I believe he's given them to me. You know, when I talked about who's the magistrate, he explained it to me. And Jesus, I think that's the most amazing part of Jesus, is he wants to be that personable with you. The other day, my friend Jay Cole and I walked down on the Serpentine Mall in Cincinnati, and you're looking at all the people there, and the cars going by on the expressways, and all this stuff. And you start thinking about, how can God have a relationship with everybody on this earth? I mean, that's just one little block in the city. And you look at all the high-rises and all the people and all the cars and just everything. I forget, somebody said there's like 6 billion people or something in the world. How can one person have a relationship with 6 billion people? Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But it's not. It's the Lord Jesus Christ. Nothing's impossible.